What happens when a billionaire CEO, revered and feared, steps out of his corner office and into the chaos of his own company, only to uncover a lie that could unravel everything he's built? This is the story of Daniel Carter, a man whose empire is about to be tested and whose life will change in ways he never saw coming. Buckle up, because this journey into the heart of Carter Properties is anything but ordinary. Daniel Carter, at 45, was a name that echoed through the skyscrapers of Chicago. He wasn't just a CEO, he was a legend. 2 decades ago, he'd started Carter Properties in a cramped office with a single desk, a rotary phone, and a dream. Through relentless ambition, a knack for spotting undervalued properties, and a reputation for closing deals others deemed impossible, he transformed his fledgling business into one of America's top real estate firms. By 2025, Carter Properties boasted a portfolio worth billions, with sleek offices in every major city and a brand synonymous with luxury and trust. Daniel's face graced the covers of Forbes and Business Insider, his sharp blue eyes and tailored suits projecting an image of unshakable control. But beneath the polished exterior, something gnawed at him. Success had come at a cost. Daniel spent his days in boardrooms, strategizing with executives, shaking hands with investors, and signing deals that shaped skylines. His world was one of glass walls and private jets, far removed from the bustling floors where his employees worked. He knew their names from org charts and their performance from quarterly reports, but their lives? Their struggles? Those were mysteries. Lately, he'd begun to feel like a captain steering a ship from a distant shore, blind to the storms brewing below deck. Carter Properties was his legacy, built on values of integrity and excellence. But was it still the company he'd envisioned? Or had it become something else entirely? The doubt had been simmering for months, but it came to a head one crisp May morning in 2025. Daniel sat at the head of a mahogany conference table on the 42nd floor of Carter Properties, Chicago headquarters, a gleaming tower of steel and glass that bore his name. The room buzzed with tension as his board of directors reviewed the latest figures. Sales in several key markets, Dallas, Miami, Seattle, were slipping. Not enough to sound alarms, but enough to raise eyebrows. Margaret Voss, the CFO, adjusted her glasses and pointed to a slide projected on the screen. "We're seeing inconsistencies in some of our regional sales reports," she said, her voice measured but pointed. "Nothing concrete, but there's chatter about creative accounting in the field." Daniel's jaw tightened. Creative accounting was a polite way of saying fraud, and in real estate, fraud was a death sentence. A single misstep fudged. Numbers, inflated appraisals, or misled clients could tank their reputation, invite lawsuits, and hand their rivals, like Horizon Realty, a golden opportunity to poach their market share. Horizon had been circling like sharks, they're aggressive. Ad campaigns touting transparency in a clear jab at Carter Properties. Daniel leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "I want answers, not rumors. If there's a problem, we fix it. Now." The room fell silent. His executives exchanged glances, unsure how to proceed without hard evidence. Margaret cleared her throat. "We could commission an internal audit, but it'll take weeks, maybe months, to pinpoint anything specific." Daniel shook his head. Audits were too slow, too impersonal. He needed to see the truth for himself, not through spreadsheets, but through the eyes of the people who kept his company running. That's when the idea hit him, bold and reckless. He would go undercover. The decision wasn't impulsive. Daniel had always believed that great leaders didn't just command, they listened. He remembered his early days, working alongside his first employees, sharing late-night pizzas and debating strategies. Somewhere along the way, he'd lost that connection. If something was rotting in Carter Properties, he wouldn't find it from the penthouse. He needed to walk the floors, hear the conversations, feel the pulse of his company. But he couldn't do it as Daniel Carter, the untouchable CEO. He'd have to become someone else entirely. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel prepared for his mission with the precision of a covert operative. He traded his bespoke suits for off-the-rack khakis and a navy polo, swapped his Rolex for a simple digital watch, and let his neatly trimmed beard grow into a scruffy shadow. He worked with a trusted confidant, his longtime assistant Clara, to craft a new identity. Nathan Cole, a 38-year-old customer service rep recently hired from a small real estate firm in Ohio. Clara forged a resume, enrolled Nathan in the company's HR system, and swore to keep Daniel's secret. "You're insane. You know that?" she said, half laughing as she handed him a pair of cheap wireframe glasses to complete the disguise. "What if they recognize you?" "They won't," Daniel replied, adjusting the glasses in the mirror. His reflection was unrecognizable, no trace of the polished titan who dominated boardrooms. "They've only seen me in photos or from a distance. Besides, who'd expect the CEO to answer phones in customer service?" Clara shook her head but didn't argue. She knew once Daniel set his mind to something, there was no turning back. To make the ruse convincing, Daniel studied the customer service department's workflows, memorizing scripts and protocols. He practiced softening his authoritative tone, adopting a friendlier, slightly nervous cadence that suited Nathan Cole, the eager newcomer. But this wasn't just about blending in. Daniel had a mission: to uncover the truth about those inconsistencies Margaret mentioned, to see if his employees embodied the values he'd built the company on, and to understand why his empire felt like it was slipping through his fingers. The night before his first day as Nathan, Daniel stood on the balcony of his Lakeshore Drive penthouse, staring at the Chicago skyline. The city glittered below, a testament to his achievements, but his thoughts drifted to his wife, Emily, and their teenage daughter, Sophie. He'd missed Sophie's piano recital last week, another casualty of his relentless schedule. Emily had been patient, but her quiet sighs spoke volumes. "You've built something incredible, Dan," she'd said once, "but don't forget why you started." Those words echoed now, fueling his resolve. Carter Properties wasn't just a business. It was his promise to his family, his employees, and himself. If it was faltering, he'd fix it, not as a distant CEO, but as one of them. As he stepped back inside, Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline. Tomorrow, he'd walk into his own company as a stranger, stripped of power and privilege, to face whatever truths awaited. Was Carter Properties the beacon of integrity he believed it to be? Or was there a darkness lurking beneath the surface, threatening to bring it all crashing down? One thing was certain: Nathan Cole was about to find out. The glass doors of Carter Properties' Chicago headquarters slid open, and Daniel Carter, now Nathan Cole, stepped into a world he built but barely knew. It was his first day as a customer service representative, a role so far removed from his CEO throne that it felt like stepping onto another planet. Gone were the polished boardrooms and deferential nods. Here, the air hummed with ringing phones, clacking keyboards, and the low murmur of stressed-out employees. Nathan adjusted his wireframe glasses, tugged at his ill-fitting polo shirt, and took a deep breath. He wasn't Daniel Carter today. He was Nathan, the new guy, here to uncover the truth about his company. But as he scanned the chaotic office, one question loomed: could he blend in long enough to find it? The customer service department occupied the 10th floor, a sprawling open-plan space lined with cubicles, fluorescent lights, and faded motivational posters proclaiming "teamwork makes the dream work." It was a far cry from the sleek penthouse suites Daniel was used to, where every detail screamed success. Here, coffee stains marred the carpet, and the air carried a faint whiff of burnt microwave popcorn. Nathan's desk, tucked in a corner. Near a flickering light held a battered computer and a headset that looked older than his teenage daughter. As he sat down, a wave of disorientation hit him. This was his company, his empire, yet it felt foreign, almost hostile. His new manager, Sarah Mitchell, a no-nonsense woman in her late 30s with sharp eyes and a clipboard, gave him a brisk orientation. "Keep up, Cole," she said, her voice clipped but not unkind. "Phones don't stop ringing, and clients don't like waiting. Stick to the script, log every call, and don't promise anything you can't deliver." Nathan nodded, suppressing a smile. He'd written the customer service protocols years ago, but hearing them from Sarah, who had no idea who he was surreal. She handed him a training manual and pointed to a nearby cubicle. "That's Lucas Bennett. He'll show you the ropes. Don't let him talk your ear off." Lucas, a lanky 20-something with a mop of curly hair and a coffee mug that read, "I survived Q4," grinned as Nathan approached. "Welcome to the trenches, man," he said, tossing a stress ball in the air. "First tip, never take a call right before lunch. You'll be stuck with a complainer for an hour." Nathan chuckled, liking Lucas's easygoing vibe. Over the next hour, Lucas walked him through the call system, sharing shortcuts and horror stories about entitled clients. But beneath the banter, Nathan sensed an undercurrent of fatigue. "You ever think about jumping to sales?" he asked casually, testing the waters. Lucas snorted. "Sales? Sure, if you've got the stomach for it. Those guys play dirty to hit their numbers. Me? I like sleeping at night." The comment lingered in Nathan's mind as he fielded his first call's routine, inquiries about property listings and mortgage terms. Between calls, he observed his surroundings like a detective. The department was a microcosm of Carter Properties. Overworked employees juggling impossible quotas, managers barking orders, and a palpable divide between the grunts in customer service and the hotshots in sales, whose glass-walled offices lined the far end of the floor. The sales team, with their press shirts and confident strides, seemed to operate in a different world, one where bonuses and promotions were the prizes for those willing to play the game. It was during a brief lull that Nathan first noticed Ethan Hayes. He stood in the sales area, leaning against the desk, his tailored blazer and megawatt smile drawing eyes like a magnet. Ethan, 32, was a rising star at Carter Properties, having climbed from intern to senior sales agent in just 5 years. His colleagues whispered about his knack for closing multi-million-dollar deals, but there was an edge to their admiration, a hint of envy or suspicion. Nathan watched as Ethan worked the room, slapping backs and tossing out quips, his charisma almost tangible. Yet something felt off. Ethan's laughter was too loud, his gestures too calculated, like an actor playing a part. Nathan's instinct sharpened when he overheard a conversation later that afternoon. He'd stepped into the break room, a cramped space with a vending machine and a sink full of unwashed mugs to grab a coffee. Lucas was there, chatting with Ethan, who leaned against the counter, scrolling through his phone. "You really pulled it off with the Warner deal, huh?" Lucas said, his tone a mix of awe and unease. Ethan smirked, not looking up. "Told you I could. Just needed a little creative math to seal it. Client's happy, numbers look good, everybody wins." Lucas shifted, his smile faltering. "Yeah, but, man, isn't that risky?" If Sarah or corporate catches wind, Ethan cut him off with a wave. "Relax, Bennett. You worry too much. In this game, you either bend the rules or get left behind." Nathan froze, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. Creative math? In real estate, that could mean anything from inflating property values to fudging financials moves that could cost Carter Properties its reputation, its clients, maybe even its survival. He kept his expression neutral, pretending to study. A flyer on the bulletin board, but his mind raced. Was Ethan an outlier, or was this the creative accounting Margaret had warned about? And if so, how deep did it go? He needed to know more, but confronting Ethan now would blow his cover. Instead, he filed the moment away, a puzzle piece in a picture he was only beginning to see. Over the next few days, Nathan settled into his role, answering calls and logging complaints while keeping a close eye on Ethan. The sales star was studying contrasts, charming with clients, evasive with colleagues. He dodged tasks that required detailed documentation, like appraisal reviews, and his answers about ongoing deals were vague, wrapped in slick deflections. During a team meeting, when Sarah pressed him about a delayed contract, Ethan flashed a grin and said, "It's under control, boss. Just ironing out the fine print." Sarah nodded, but Nathan caught the flicker of doubt in her eyes. He wasn't the only one watching Ethan. The office itself was a pressure cooker. Nathan overheard grumbling about unrealistic sales targets, stalled promotions, and rumors of favoritism in the sales team. One employee, a quiet woman named Mia, confided in Lucas during lunch. "They say you've got to play the game to move up, but I'm not like Ethan. I can't fake it." Lucas shrugged. "That's the deal here. The higher you climb, the shadier it gets." The words hit Nathan like a punch. This wasn't the Carter Properties he built, where hard work and honesty were supposed to pave the way. Had he been so focused on growth that he missed a toxic culture taking root? Beyond the office, Nathan's double life took a toll. At night, he returned to his penthouse, shedding Nathan's cheap clothes and slipping back into Daniel's world. But the transition wasn't seamless. He lay awake, replaying Ethan's words, wondering if one rogue employee could jeopardize everything. His thoughts drifted to his family, Emily's patient smiles, Sophie's growing distance. He'd promised to take Sophie to her next recital, but the undercover mission was consuming him. "This is for them," he told himself, staring at a photo of his daughter on his nightstand. "For the company, for our future." But the weight of his secret grew heavier each day. By the end of his first week, Nathan was no closer to hard evidence, but Ethan's behavior gnawed at him. The sales agent's charm was a mask, hiding something: ambition, desperation, or both. Nathan needed to get closer, to understand what drove Ethan and whether he was a symptom of a larger disease. But he had to tread carefully. Sarah was already side-eyeing him, noting how sharp he was for a rookie. "You sure you're new to this?" she asked once, her tone half joking, half probing. Nathan laughed it off, but the close call rattled him. If his cover was blown, the mission would collapse. As he left the office that Friday, Nathan glanced back at the sales team's glass enclave, where Ethan was pitching a client over the phone, his voice smooth as silk. The man was a master at selling dreams, but what was he hiding? Nathan's gut told him the answer could change everything for Ethan, for Carter Properties, and for Daniel Carter himself. He stepped into the elevator, the doors closing with a soft ding, and steeled himself for what lay ahead. The truth was out there, buried in the chaos of cubicles and contracts, and Nathan Cole was going to find it. Nathan Cole had been at Carter Properties for 2 weeks, and the facade of the eager new hire was starting to wear thin. Beneath the cheap glasses and forced smiles, Daniel Carter was a man on edge, his CEO instinct screaming that something was rotten in his company. Ethan Hayes, the slick sales star with the too-perfect grin, was at the center of it. Nathan had overheard enough to suspect Ethan was bending the rules, fudging numbers. Maybe worse, but suspicion wasn't proof. If he was going to protect Carter Properties, he needed evidence, and he needed it fast. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were higher than he'd ever imagined. The customer service department remained a whirlwind of ringing phones and frazzled nerves, but Nathan had found his rhythm. He answered calls, logged complaints, and kept his head down, all while watching Ethan like a hawk, The sales agent was a master of deflection, gliding through the office with an ease that masked his evasiveness. He'd charm clients over the phone, toss witty one-liners to colleagues, then slip away when questions about his deals got too pointed. Nathan noticed Ethan avoided the nitty-gritty tasks, appraisal reviews, compliance checks like they were radioactive. It wasn't laziness, it was calculation. Ethan was hiding something, and Nathan was determined to find out what dot to get closer. Nathan leaned on his budding rapport with Lucas Bennett, the chatty coworker who seemed to know everyone's business. During a slow afternoon, he joined Lucas at the vending machine, casually steering the conversation toward Ethan. "Hey, seems like he's got it all figured out," Nathan said. "Fishing. Always closing big deals." Lucas snorted, punching buttons for a bag of chips. "Yeah, big deals and bigger egos. Guy's untouchable. Sarah lets him skate on stuff that'd get the rest of us canned." But he lowered his voice, glancing around. "Some of us think he's cutting corners, like serious corners." "You didn't hear that from me, though." Nathan nodded, keeping his expression neutral. Lucas's hesitation confirmed his suspicions. Ethan's behavior wasn't a secret, but fear or loyalty kept people quiet. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday when Nathan volunteered to help Sarah Mitchell with a backlog of sales reports. It was a calculated move. Access to the sales team's files could reveal what Ethan was up to. Sarah, still wary of Nathan's uncanny competence, agreed, but watched him closely. In a cluttered file room, Nathan sifted through contracts and appraisals, his heart pounding as he scanned for Ethan's name. Most of the documents were routine, but one folder, labeled Warner Project, caught his eye. It detailed a multi-million-dollar commercial land deal with Helen Warner, a wealthy investor known for her no-nonsense approach. Ethan was the lead agent, and the numbers looked off. Nathan's real estate expertise kicked in. The appraisal valued the property at $12 million, but cross-referencing market data on his phone, he estimated it was worth closer to $9 million. The financial projections Ethan had submitted to Warner were inflated, painting a rosy picture of rental yields that no honest analysis could support. Worse, a handwritten note tucked in the folder signed by Ethan instructed a junior analyst to adjust the comps to justify the higher value. It was a smoking gun, the kind of move that could mislead a client, violate regulations, and tank Carter Properties' credibility if exposed. Nathan slipped the note into his pocket, his mind racing. This wasn't just unethical. It was dangerous. His suspicions deepened the next day when he stumbled across an email that wasn't meant for him. Ethan, in a rare slip, had CC'd the entire sales team on a message intended for a single colleague. The subject line read, "Warner follow-up," and the body was cryptic but damning. "Told the inspector to skip the soil test. No need to spook the client. File's clean now." Nathan's blood ran cold. A skipped soil test could hide environmental issues, leaving buyers like Warner on the hook for millions in remediation costs. If this deal went south, Carter Properties could face lawsuits, fines, even criminal charges. Ethan wasn't just playing fast and loose. He was gambling with the company's future. The discovery came at a perilous moment. Whispers of trouble were spreading beyond the office. Over lunch, Lucas mentioned a rumor that the Illinois Real Estate Board was sniffing around, prompted by complaints about irregularities in Chicago's commercial market. Nathan's stomach churned. If regulators caught wind of Ethan's antics, Carter Properties could be dragged into a public scandal. Worse, their rival, Horizon Realty, was fanning the flames. Nathan spotted a Horizon ad on his phone, touting uncompromising integrity with a sly dig. "Choose a partner you can trust." The message was clear. They smelled blood and were ready to pounce. The external pressure amplified Nathan's sense of urgency, but it also complicated his mission. He couldn't act rashly without risking his cover. Sarah's scrutiny was intensifying. During a team huddle, she called him out for overstepping when he asked a pointed question about sales compliance. "You're a quick study, Cole," she said, her eyes narrowing. "But stick to your lane." Nathan mumbled an apology, but the exchange left him rattled. If Sarah dug into his background, the Nathan Cole facade could crumble. He needed to move faster, but he also needed more than a note and an email. He needed to see Ethan in action, to understand the scope of his deception. Over the next week, Nathan shadowed Ethan under the guise of learning the sales process. He joined client calls, sat in on pitch meetings, and watched Ethan weave his magic. The man was a chameleon, tailoring his pitch to each client's desires, promising returns that skirted the edge of plausibility. During a meeting with a smaller client, Ethan casually dismissed concerns about a property's zoning restrictions, saying, "We'll handle that post-sale." The client nodded, but Nathan's jaw clenched. That kind of promise could lock Carter Properties into costly legal battles. Ethan's confidence was intoxicating, but it was built on a house of cards. The more Nathan saw, the more he realized. Ethan wasn't acting alone. A junior sales rep, Tyler, often lingered near Ethan's desk, exchanging hushed words and passing files. Once Nathan caught Tyler slipping Ethan a USB drive, their eyes darting nervously. Was Tyler an accomplice, or just following orders? The question gnawed at Nathan, but he couldn't risk confronting Tyler without solid proof. Instead, he focused on Ethan, tracking his every move. The sales star's desk was a fortress of locked drawers, and his computer was password protected. But Nathan noticed Ethan often worked late, alone in the office. If he could find a way to access those files. Amid the investigation, Nathan's double life grew heavier. At home, Emily sensed his distraction. Her gentle questions about his long hours met with vague excuses. Sophie, now 16, barely looked up from her phone during dinner, her silence a reminder of the time he'd lost. "I'm doing this for you," Daniel told himself, but the words felt hollow. Carter Properties was his legacy, but at what cost? The mission was consuming him, blurring the line between Daniel and Nathan. He caught himself answering a call in his C.A.O. voice once, earning a puzzled look from Lucas. He couldn't afford. Another slipped off by the end of the second week. Nathan had enough to act. The Warner file, the email, and Ethan's pattern of deceit painted a clear picture. The sales star was risking everything for short-term gains, but Nathan wasn't ready to pull the trigger. Ethan's charisma hinted at talent, maybe even potential, buried beneath the lies. Why was he doing this? Greed? Pressure? Desperation? Nathan needed answers, not just evidence. A confrontation was inevitable, but it had to be strategic, private, direct, and designed to uncover Ethan's motives without tipping his hand as Daniel Carter dot as he left the office one evening. Nathan passed Ethan's desk, where the sales agent was on a call, his voice smooth as ever. "Trust me, Mrs. Warner, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," he said, his eyes glinting with conviction. Nathan's fist clenched around the stolen note in his pocket. The truth was within reach, but so was the danger. If he misstepped, Ethan could slip away, and Carter Properties could pay the price. The elevator doors closed, and Nathan steeled himself for the next move. The game was on, and he was playing for keeps. The fluorescent lights in Carter Properties' 10th floor conference room buzzed faintly, casting stark shadows on the walls. Nathan Cole sat at a small table, his hands clasped to steady the adrenaline coursing through him. Across from him, the door swung open, and Ethan Hayes strode in, his tailored blazer pristine, his smile as confident as ever. But Nathan saw the flicker in Ethan's eyes, a hint of unease, like a predator sensing a trap. For 2 weeks, Nathan had watched, waited, and gathered evidence. Now, It was time to confront the man risking everything Daniel Carter had built. This wasn't just about saving Carter properties. It was about understanding why a star like Ethan would burn so recklessly. "Hayes, take a seat," Nathan said, his voice calm but edged with steel. Ethan raised an eyebrow, dropping into the chair with a casual lean. "What's this about, Cole? You're not my boss." The quip was light, but his fingers tapped the table, betraying nerves. Nathan leaned forward, his cheap glasses glinting. Under the lights, he'd rehearsed this moment, knowing one wrong word could blow his cover or push Ethan to bolt. "I've been watching you, Ethan," he began, locking eyes. "I know about the Warner deal, the inflated appraisal, the skipped soil test, the creative math you bragged about. You're putting this company in the crosshairs. I want to know why." Ethan's smile froze, then cracked into a forced laugh. "Whoa, new guy, you're way out of your depth. You got no idea what you're talking about." But his voice wavered, and Nathan pounced. He slid a photocopy of the handwritten note. From the Warner file across the table, Ethan's scrawl unmistakable. "Adjust the comps." Next came a printout of the misdirected email, its damning lines circled. "Skip the soil test." Ethan's face drained of color, his charm evaporating. "Where'd you get these?" he stammered, shoving the papers back. Nathan didn't blink. "Doesn't matter. What matters is you're manipulating clients, breaking laws, and dragging Carter Properties into a mess we might not survive. So, I'll ask again. Why?" For a moment, Ethan looked like he might bolt. His eyes darted to the door, then back to Nathan, calculating. Then, something shifted. His shoulders slumped, and the bravado melted away, revealing a man cornered not just by evidence, but by his own choices. "You don't get it," he muttered, avoiding Nathan's gaze. "You think it's easy climbing the ladder here. They dangle bonuses and promotions, but the targets are impossible. You either play the game or get crushed." Nathan's jaw tightened. He'd built Carter Properties on integrity, but Ethan's words echoed the grumbling he'd heard in the break room, the whispers of a culture gone astray. "Playing the game doesn't mean lying to clients," Nathan said, his tone firm but not cruel. "You could have cost us everything: lawsuits, regulators, our reputation. Why not ask for help?" Ethan laughed bitterly, finally meeting Nathan's eyes. "Help? I tried, man. Last year, my dad got sick cancer. Bills piled up, and I was drowning. I went to my manager, begged for a raise or a loan. Know what he said? Hit your quota, then we'll talk. So, I did what I had to. A few tweaks here, a shortcut there. It wasn't about hurting anyone. It was about surviving." The confession hit Nathan like a freight train. Ethan wasn't just a rogue agent. He was a man pushed to the edge by desperation and a system that rewarded results over ethics. Daniel Carter, the CEO, had been blind to this, too busy signing deals to see the cracks in his own company. But Nathan Cole, the everyman, saw the pain in Ethan's eyes, the weight of a choice made in fear. For a moment, Daniel's resolve wavered. He could end this now, fire Ethan, turn the evidence over to HR, and let the system handle it. But that felt like giving up on more than just Ethan. It felt like giving up on the values he'd staked his life on. "You made a mistake," Nathan said, his voice softening. "A big one. But mistakes don't have to define you." Ethan's head snapped up, confusion replacing defiance. Nathan pressed on, choosing his words carefully to protect his cover. "I'm not just some rookie, Ethan. I'm someone who's seen enough to know this company's worth saving, and so are you. But you've got to own this. No more lies, no more shortcuts. I'm giving you a chance to fix it, starting with the Warner deal. Come clean to Sarah, revise the numbers, and make it right. If you don't, I will." Ethan stared, his mouth slightly open. "Why are you doing this?" You could bury me with this stuff." Nathan hesitated. The truth. I'm Daniel Carter, and I believe in second chances teetering on his tongue. Instead, he said, "Because I've seen what happens when people get written off, and I think you're better than this." It was a half-truth, but it landed. Ethan's eyes glistened, a mix of relief and shame. I don't know if I can fix it," he admitted. "Sarah'll have my head, and Warner might walk," Nathan nodded. "Maybe, but you'll sleep better knowing you tried. And I'll be watching to make sure you do." The room fell silent, the hum of the lights deafening. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his bravado gone, replaced by a raw vulnerability. "Okay," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll try, but if this blows up, it's on me, not you." Nathan extended his hand, a gesture both firm and forgiving. "Deal. Don't make me regret this, Hayes." Ethan shook it, his grip tentative but resolute. As he left, Nathan sank. Back in his chair, the weight of the moment settling in. He'd taken a risk, one that could backfire spectacularly. But he'd also seen something in Ethan, a spark of potential that deserved a chance. That night, Daniel shed Nathan's clothes and stood in his penthouse, staring at the Chicago skyline. The confrontation had shaken him, not because of Ethan's crimes, but because of what they revealed about Carter Properties. The company he'd built wasn't perfect. It had pushed people like Ethan to break, and he'd been too distant to notice. He thought of Emily and Sophie, of the promises he'd made to be a better husband, a better father. This mission wasn't just about saving his company. It was about saving himself. As he poured a glass of water, his phone buzzed a text from Clara, his assistant, who'd been monitoring the office from afar. "Heard you're stirring things up down there. Be careful." Daniel smiled faintly. Careful wasn't his style, not when the truth was at stake. Ethan had his chance, but the real work was just beginning. Tomorrow, Nathan Cole would return, watching, waiting, and hoping Ethan would prove him right. The fate of Carter Properties hung in the balance, and Daniel Carter wasn't ready to let it fall. The morning after his confrontation with Nathan Cole, Ethan Hayes stood outside Carter Properties' Chicago headquarters, staring at the glass facade that had once symbolized his ambitions. Now, it loomed like a gauntlet. He'd spent the night wrestling with Nathan's ultimatum: come clean, fix the Warner deal, and earn back the trust he'd squandered, or lose everything. Ethan's instinct was to run, to polish his resume and jump ship before the fallout hit. But Nathan's words, "I think you're better than this," had struck a chord he couldn't ignore. For the first time in years, someone believed in him, not his sales numbers. Clutching a revised Warner contract, Ethan stepped inside. Redemption wasn't a guarantee, but it was a chance, and he was damn well going to take it. Nathan watched from his cubicle in the customer service department, his heart a tangle of hope and caution. As Daniel Carter, he'd gambled on Ethan, risking Carter Properties' stability to uphold a principle. People could change, but principles didn't erase consequences. Ethan's actions had jeopardized a fire that could still burn the company down, and Nathan's cover as a rookie rep was fraying under Sarah Mitchell's scrutiny. He needed Ethan to succeed, not just for the sales agent's sake, but to prove that Carter Properties could be the company Daniel had envisioned one, where integrity trumped shortcuts. As Ethan approached Sarah's office, Nathan braced himself. The journey was just beginning, and it was going to be a rough one. Ethan's first step was the hardest, confessing to Sarah. He knocked on her door, the revised Warner contract trembling in his hand. Sarah, her desk buried in reports, looked up with her usual mix of impatience and authority. "This better be good, Hayes," she said, eyeing him warily. Ethan took a deep breath, the words spilling out like a dam breaking. "I messed up, Sarah. The Warner deal. I inflated the numbers, skipped the soil test. It was wrong, and I'm here to fix it." He slid the corrected contract across her desk, detailing the accurate $9 million valuation and a full environmental report he'd commissioned overnight. Sarah's eyes narrowed, her silence more cutting than any reprimand. "You realize what this could have cost us?" she finally said, her voice low. "Why now?" Ethan hesitated, Nathan's warning echoing in his mind. He couldn't mention the confrontation without exposing his mysterious ally. "I couldn't live with it anymore," he said, the truth half-baked but sincere. "I want to make this right." Sarah studied him, then the contract, her expression unreadable. "You're on thin ice, Hayes. Warner's coming in tomorrow. You'll present this yourself, and if she walks, you're done. Understood?" Ethan nodded, relief and dread churning in his gut. As he left, Sarah picked up her phone, her voice sharp as she called HR. Nathan, overhearing from a nearby cubicle, tensed. Sarah wasn't sold, and Ethan's leash was short. The office buzzed with whispers as word of Ethan's confession spread. Lucas Bennett, usually quick with a quip, avoided Ethan's desk, his silence louder than any insult. Mia, the quiet customer service rep, offered a cautious nod, but others weren't so forgiving. Tyler, the junior sales rep Nathan had seen, passing Ethan a USB drive, cornered him in the break room, his voice a hiss. "You ratting me out, Hayes? I covered for you on that zoning deal." Ethan's jaw clenched. Tyler had doctored documents at his request, a fact Nathan didn't yet know. "I'm owning my mistakes, Tyler," Ethan said, stepping closer. "You should too, or this'll drag us both down." Tyler stormed off, his threat lingering like smoke. Ethan's redemption was a tightrope, and every step risked a fall. Nathan, still posing as Nathan Cole, kept a close eye on Ethan, slipping him advice disguised as casual chats. During a coffee run, he suggested ways to rebuild trust with Warner: transparency, data-driven pitches, and a genuine apology. "Clients respect honesty," Nathan said, his CEO wisdom cloaked in rookie earnestness. Ethan listened, scribbling notes, his usual swagger replaced by a quiet determination. But Nathan's own challenges mounted. Sarah's suspicion had grown into pointed questions. "You ask a lot of questions for a temp, Cole," she said during a team meeting, her tone probing. Nathan deflected with a shy smile, but the clock was ticking on his cover. He needed Ethan to turn things around before Sarah dug deeper. The meeting with Helen Warner was Ethan's crucible. The investor, a steely woman in her 60s, arrived with her lawyer, her demeanor all business. In a conference room overlooking Lake Michigan, Ethan presented the revised Warner contract, his voice steady despite the sweat beading on his brow. "Mrs. Warner, I owe you an apology," he began. "The original numbers were inaccurate, my mistake. This contract reflects the true value $9 million, with full disclosures. I'll personally oversee every step to ensure you get what you're paying for." Warner's eyes bored into him, her silence stretching like a taut wire. The lawyer flipped through the documents, nodding slowly. "You're lucky I value candor." "Mr. Hess," Warner said at last, "I'll proceed, but I'm watching you. Don't make me regret this." Ethan exhaled, a weight lifting even as new pressures settled in. The victory was small but seismic. Warner's decision kept the deal alive, but Ethan's reputation was still in tatters. Colleagues whispered about his screw-up, and Tyler's hostility grew, culminating in a cryptic email to Ethan. "Keep my name out of this, or you'll regret it." Nathan, who began monitoring Ethan's progress through shared sales reports, sensed Tyler's involvement was a loose end that could unravel everything. He urged Ethan to disclose any accomplices to Sarah, but Ethan hesitated, torn between loyalty and self-preservation. "Tyler's just scared," he told Nathan. "I can handle him." Nathan's gut churned. Ethan's progress was real, but his reluctance to fully come clean was a red flag. Beyond Ethan's struggle, Nathan saw Carter Properties' deeper flaws. The confrontation had exposed a culture of cutthroat quotas and neglected employees, a problem Daniel Carter had ignored for too long. As Nathan, he pushed for change subtly, suggesting ethics training during a staff meeting and volunteering to draft a compliance checklist. Sarah, surprisingly, approved, though her eyes lingered on him. "You're full of ideas, Cole," she said, half impressed, half suspicious. Nathan knew he was pushing his luck, but the company needed this as much as Ethan did. Ethan's transformation gained traction over weeks. He tackled smaller deals with meticulous honesty, earning cautious praise from clients. During a pitch for a residential property, he disclosed a minor flooding issue up front, winning the buyer's trust and closing the sale. Lucas, thawing, clapped him on the shoulder one day. "Didn't think you had it in you, man." Even Sarah softened, noting Ethan's improved reports. But the shadow of Tyler loomed. Nathan caught the junior rep slipping Ethan a note, their exchange tense. When he pressed Ethan later, the sales agent admitted Tyler had threatened to leak old emails unless Ethan kept quiet. "I'll deal with it," Ethan insisted. But Nathan wasn't so sure. At home, Daniel's double life strained his family. Emily confronted him after another late night, her voice gentle but firm. "You're here, Dan, but you're not here. What's going on?" He wanted to tell her about Nathan, about Ethan, about the company teetering on the edge, but the secret held him back. Instead, he promised to make time for Sophie's next recital, a vow he prayed he could keep. The mission was reshaping him, forcing him to see leadership not as power but as responsibility to his employees. His family, himself. By the end of the month, Ethan stood taller, his deals cleaner, his confidence earned. During a team huddle, he thanked Sarah for her oversight, a public olive branch that quieted some doubters. Nathan watched, a flicker of pride in his chest. Ethan wasn't perfect, but he was trying, and that was enough for now. But Tyler's threat and Sarah's suspicions were storm clouds on the horizon. Nathan knew the final test was coming for Ethan, for Carter Properties, and for the man behind the disguise. As he left the office, he glanced at Ethan, now reviewing a contract with care. The sales agent was fighting for his future, and Nathan was fighting for his company's soul. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, victory felt possible. The Chicago skyline sparkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Carter Properties' 42nd floor boardroom, but the real light in the room came from the faces of the employees gathered below. It was a rare all-hands meeting, and Nathan Cole Daniel, Carter in disguise, stood at the back, his heart pounding with a mix of pride and nerves. For weeks, he'd lived as a customer service rep, uncovering truths that had shaken him to his core. Now, as Ethan Hayes prepared to address the team, Daniel knew the moment had come to step out of the shadows. Carter Properties wasn't just a company. It was a community, and today it would reclaim its soul. Ethan stood at the podium, no longer the slick sales star with a too-perfect grin. His blazer was slightly rumpled, his eyes earnest as he faced his colleagues. The past month had been a gauntlet confessing to Sarah, facing Helen Warner, and weathering distrust from peers like Lucas and threats from Tyler, but Ethan had persevered, closing honest deals and mentoring junior reps on ethical practices. Tyler's hostility had fizzled when Ethan, with Nathan's quiet urging, disclosed their past collaboration to Sarah, who disciplined Tyler but kept him on with a warning. Ethan's transparency had cost him alliances but earned him respect. Now, he cleared his throat, his voice steady. "I made mistakes," he began. "I cut corners, lied to clients, and let you all down. But I'm here because someone gave me a chance to do better. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying, and I want this company to be a place where we all can." The room was silent. Then Lucas clapped, slow at first, joined by Mia and others. Sarah nodded from the front row, her stern facade softening. Ethan stepped down, relief washing over him, unaware that the man who'd sparked his change was watching. From the back, Nathan's chest tightened with pride. Ethan wasn't just a sales agent. He was proof that Carter Properties could nurture growth, not just profits. But the story wasn't over. Daniel had one final move to make. He stepped forward, his cheap glasses tucked in his pocket, and took the podium. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Why was the new guy speaking? Sarah's eyes narrowed, but Daniel's voice, now unmistakably. The CEO's silenced the room. "My name isn't Nathan Cole," he said, pausing as gasps spread. "I'm Daniel Carter, and for the past 6 weeks, I've been one of you." The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Lucas's jaw dropped. Mia blinked in disbelief, and Ethan froze, piecing together Nathan's uncanny insight. Daniel continued, his tone firm but warm. "I went undercover because I needed to see the truth, not from a boardroom, but from your world. I saw our strengths, our flaws, and one man's courage to change." He nodded at Ethan, who looked floored. Ethan's story isn't just his, it's ours. We've lost our way, chasing numbers over values. That ends today. Daniel outlined reforms, realistic quotas, ethics training, and an open-door policy for concerns. He admitted his own failings, vowing to be a leader who listened. "This company is you," he said, scanning the room. "And I believe in you." The applause was tentative, then thunderous, a release of tension and hope. Ethan approached Daniel afterward, his voice thick. "You were Nathan. Why risk it for me?" Daniel smiled, clapping his shoulder. "Because second chances build. More than empires, they build people." Ethan nodded, a silent promise to keep proving him right. Beyond the office, Carter Properties transformed. Ethan's honest deals set a new standard, and clients like Warner spread word of the company's integrity. Horizon Realty's sniping. Ads faded as Carter Properties won a major municipal contract, its transparent bid outshining rivals. Daniel, no longer a distant CEO, hosted town halls and joined staff lunches, his presence bridging the gap between cubicles and boardrooms. The Illinois Real Estate Board's investigation, once a looming threat, found no systemic issues, thanks to Ethan's corrections and Daniel's reforms. The company wasn't perfect, but it was stronger, its heart beating with purpose at home. Daniel kept his promise to Emily and Sophie. He attended Sophie's recital, cheering louder than anyone, and planned a family weekend, his first in months. Emily's smile, warm and unguarded, reminded him why he'd fought. Leadership wasn't about power. It was about connection to his employees, his family, himself. As he stood on his penthouse balcony one night, the skyline no longer a monument to his ego, but a canvas of possibility, Daniel knew Carter Properties was his legacy, but its people were its soul. This story isn't just about a CEO and a sales agent. It's a testament to the power of second chances. Ethan's journey shows that mistakes don't define us, our choices do. Daniel's risk reminds us that true leadership means seeing potential where others see failure. In a world quick to judge, their story asks, what if we believed in redemption? It's a question that resonates beyond the office, touching our lives, our communities, our hearts. Carter Properties didn't just survive. It thrived because one man dared to trust another. That's the legacy worth building. What do you think? Do you believe in second chances? Would you have taken Daniel's risk or given Ethan that shot? Ethan's shot? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take. And if stories like this move you, subscribe to Legacy Stories on YouTube for more tales of courage, redemption, and the human spirit. Hit that bell icon to never miss an upload and join our community of dreamers and doers. Together, let's keep these stories alive. Until next time, keep believing in the power of a second chance.